Here we go. Good morning, everyone. We're continuing in Masechet Pesachim Perek Zayin, Mishnah Zayin. HaPesach shenizrak damo ve'achar kach noda shehu tameh. So, let's say the Korban Pesach was offered, and already the blood was already spilled onto the Korban, onto the Mizbeach, and then you find out that the Korban was tameh. That after the slaughtering, the animal got impure. You already finished everything, and you only realized then. Hatzitz meratzeh, the tzitz, which was the bandana that the Kohen Gadol wore, which is Kodesh Hashem. The Mishnah uses that as like the holiest, one of the holiest pieces of the garments of the Kohen Gadol. That's meratzeh, meaning the Kohen Gadol kind of covers it, meaning, okay, it was an accident, min hashamayim, and the Korban Pesach is covered, meaning even though now we found out that it's tameh, now the person is not allowed to eat it, yet he still fulfilled his obligation, and he does not need to bring another Korban Pesach Sheni a month later. He fulfilled his obligation. But nitma haguf enatzitz meratzeh. But let's say he does the Korban Pesach, and then they realize, oh, I was tameh, and he forgot at the time, or they found out in a situation where he could have found out earlier. And someone told him, oh, you were in that room, and you were tameh. And he didn't know maybe, but it was something that people could have found out about. So that means that the entire Korban Pesach was done on the premise when he was tameh, from the moment he was tameh, so it doesn't count, and he has to bring another Korban Pesach at Pesach Sheni. Mipnei she'amru, as it was taught in an earlier Masechet, by Masechet Nazir. HaNazir ve'oseh Pesach, that there it puts together the Nazir. The Nazir is a person who promises to, he's a regular Yisrael, he's not a Kohen, but he promises to be a Nazir, which means he refrains from touching dead bodies, from drinking wine, etc. But that comes to a limit of 30 days. So the Nazir and the person who does Korban Pesach, Hatzitz meratzeh et tumat hadam. The tzitz covers in a situation where the dam was tameh, meaning the dam from the korban, because the Nazir also brings korbanot when he finishes his Nazir process. Meaning, if they find out afterwards that it was tameh, then if the korban was tameh, then that's fine. The tzitz does not cover if the person himself was tameh, except for one case. Nitma tumat hatehom hatzitz meratzeh. Let's say they find out that tumat hatehom, tuma in the ground, meaning that there's a dead body there. So this guy does Korban Pesach, he finishes everything. Then they find out, someone does an archaeological dig right there and then, say, oh, you walked here. There was tameh. You just walked on it, and you were tameh, and then you did your Korban Pesach. That means you did your Korban Pesach betuma. So that was something that nobody could have found out about. That was something that was covered in the ground. Nobody knew there was a grave there in such a situation. So that is also covered, and he's yotzei. He does not need to do his Korban Pesach again. Mishnah Chet. Nitma shalem o rubo. It's an interesting one. So let's say the Korban Pesach itself, the meat became tameh, or majority of it became tameh. So So there they would burn it in front of the capital, which is in the Mikdash, with using the wood from the Beit HaMikdash as well. Meaning, they wanted to teach this person a lesson by saying, if the entire Korban Pesach became tameh, that means someone made a mistake over here. That's not something, someone should have handled it properly, etc. And therefore, it's something holy. You need to burn it in front of people in the Beit HaMikdash, so people know that you're going to feel bad a little bit, so that you don't do this again. But don't worry, you could use the wood of the Beit HaMikdash, because we assume that we're not going to embarrass you if you didn't bring wood in preparation for this. You didn't maybe plan on it being tameh. Don't worry, we're going to cover you on the wood. Okay. Nitma miuto ve'anotar. Let's say a minority piece, a small piece of the Korban Pesach became tameh, or there was leftovers, meaning they ate they did the Pesach Seder, and everyone was supposed to eat part of the Korban Pesach. Unfortunately, this guy fell asleep, this guy got sick, whatever it was, and there was leftovers. Then they couldn't eat anymore. Came the morning, there was leftovers of the meat. Okay, it wasn't their fault. If it was done on purpose, it's a violation. If not, it's a shogeg. But sorfinoto, you have to burn that leftover it's holy. Where do you burn it? Mishnah says you don't have to go to the Bet HaMikdash. It doesn't have to be a public thing. Do it in your own backyard. Or agagoten, or on your roof. They used to have flat roofs. They used to use the roofs there for different things. Burn on your roof as well. From your own wood. Do your own thing, but make sure you take care of it. But there were some people that were cheap. Hatzai kanin, which is over here translation as a kamtsanim. There were some people that were cheap. They didn't want to use their own wood. So what happens? So they would come the next morning, and they would come to the Bet HaMikdash. The Kohanim, we have some leftover Korban Pesach to burn. So was this a majority? Did you guys make that mistake? And no, we did our seder, and there was leftover. This guy got sick, this guy fell asleep, it was leftover. So leftover you could do in your own backyard. And they said, well, we want to burn it here. And they knew, the Kohanim knew these guys were cheap. They didn't want to use their own wood. They wanted to use the wood of the Bet HaMikdash. So what happened? The Kohanim say, okay, yalla, come, burn it here. And use, even though you don't want to use the Bet HaMikdash as wood. Why? Why did they let them use it? They knew these guys were cheap. They don't want to send them home because they might be so cheap, they might not go home and burn it. They might be so cheap to say, you know what, if they don't let me burn it here, forget it, I'm not going to burn it in my backyard. And therefore, Chachamim said, you know what, if these guys are cheap, okay, fine, we'll let it ride this time because we want to make sure that the Korban Pesach is going to be burnt and it's not going to be thrown in the garbage or anything like that. So it's just an interesting point. When it came to cheap people, I guess they're spending so much on Pesach anyways, they got a little bit cheap on the wood, but it is what it is. Some people were like that. And Chachamim said, okay, yalla, just burn it here anyways, don't worry about it. Okay, that's that. We still have a few Mishnayot left. We'll continue this next week. Bezrat Hashem. Baruch Hananah Le'olam. Amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashah ונצא הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את זפיך חיבה להם תורה מסו שנאמר אדוני חפץ זמן צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר